At Blake Newport, we're commercial contract management consultants. We're involved in tender preparation, preparation of programmes and risk profile presentations. During the contract period, we'll also assist in commercial support, quantity surveying, that sort of thing, contractual advice, as well as planning and project controls. And there's a team of guys who are involved in that. Post-contract, which is generally where we're involved in delay analysis and forensic delay, it's the assessment of the final account. Preparation of claims for loss and disruption or time and money are the thing that I've been involved in the most, and largely when you get presented with some information and a contractor is saying, I've lost £500,000 and this is all the documents that I've got to justify loss and expense, it becomes a very difficult scenario to generate that kind of money. So it's important that you come from a very strong position. So the NEC places a different emphasis on the programme than generally other forms of contract. It's clear that the programme, it clearly defines how the programme is to be constructed. It lists in detail what information must be included, and most importantly, it defines how the effects of change are measured. So what's a plan? Most contractors describe the plan as being the Gantt chart on the wall, but in reality that's just a representation. All it is a time sequence set of events. You need a method statement to be aligned very closely with the programme. And it needs to, the activity descriptions on the programme need to be represented in the method statement. This will not necessarily include the risk assessments as such, but the overall project method statement that's probably part of the construction phase health and safety plan. At some point, somebody must have sat down and decided how we were going to do it. Activities that are due to commence sooner rather than later will contain a lot more detail. Activities that are in the future won't necessarily contain vast amounts of detail, but there will be an idea of how you intend to do it. You should also include any assumptions that you've made, any planning constraints, because if you don't, it becomes very awkward sat in a meeting across from the project manager saying, well, I thought we were going to do this. If you can't prove it, it will be very difficult to substantiate your claim. Resources. Every bit of software you see gives you the possibility to resource things. But how many programs do you find that haven't been resourced? In my experience with contractors, it's quite a lot. What sort of resources do you need to put on? Excavators, trucks, piling rigs, cranes, tower crane usage would be a good starting point. Things like whacker plates, still saws, probably not required. Operatives, those required to actually complete the deliverables. Supervision for plant operations and banksmen need to be included in the activities. And supervision, engineers, foremen, gangers, charge hands. Yesterday I was with a client who suggested that Microsoft Project, you shouldn't resource the summary bars because the effects of the programme are mirrored in the summary bar. And I said, well, these are supervisory resources who, if the project takes longer, will be there longer. And then he said, okay, well, we'll live with that. But if you cannot prove the level of supervision that you need, it will be very hard, again, to recover that aspect. Within resources, you need to be able to demonstrate what output rates you've estimated that you're going to get, what efficiency has been estimated, and anything that you perceive will affect and impact your respective outputs. You also, if you're planning to do something in winter, you'll need to take a greater percentage of efficiency loss And again, if you're doing it in the summer, you can be more efficient. If that bar moves as a result of change, then you need to make sure that when you reschedule it, you include that as part of the compensation event. So the plan, it's who does what, with what, and when. Assumptions, constraints, supervision, compliance with statutory procedures, and your company policies. Once you've got that, and it seems like an awful lot of information to produce, but certainly if you haven't got that, you are not coming from a position of strength. Okay, so what are the baselines then? The Gantt chart is often referred to as the baseline. Clearly there's a default setting in every piece of software that allows you to create a baseline for the project. And frequently it's assumed that once you've done that, you have the baseline from which all entitlement is going to be assessed. The method statement, as I described earlier, forms a vital underpinning information that enables you to demonstrate how you actually intended to do each aspect of the job. Resource histograms, everybody's prepared these, but if without them, demonstrating what level of resource you had at the time in the programme, it becomes again very difficult to prove entitlement. Why do we need baselines then? Clause 63.1 of the NEC contract says the changes to the prices are assessed as the effect of the compensation upon the actual defined cost of the work already done, the forecast defined cost of the work not yet done, and the resulting fee. The contract contemplates that everybody will perform their functions and duties as per the contract. So the project manager sees the need for an instruction, he gives you the instruction, within 3 weeks you submit your quote, he then decides whether he's accepting the quote. Assuming that he does, you then implement it into your programme and off you go with the work. The reality, as I'm sure you're all aware, is somewhat different. Largely you are told to get on with the work, you proceed with the work, you then have to assess the impact and justify your entitlement to time and money sometime after the event. It can be quite a difficult task. Again, as I said, the NEC is very prescriptive about how entitlement is assessed. In terms of JCT, ICE forms of contract, it's much more subjective, whereas the mechanism in an NEC says that a delay to the completion date is assessed at the length of time that, due to the compensation event, planned completion is later than planned completion as shown on the accepted programme. A delay to a key date is assessed at the length of time that, due to the compensation event, the planned date for the conditions stated for a key date will be met is later than the date shown on the accepted programme. What is fundamental to both of these is the accepted programme. If you have an accepted programme at the start of the project and are normally required to submit a revised programme, clause 32 programme, every 4 weeks or monthly, that programme becomes the accepted programme, assuming it's accepted by the project manager. The programme that you should use for assessing the impact of a compensation event is the accepted programme that was in force at the time the event occurred. So if you're 6 months into a project and you haven't been providing a revised programme, you will find it very difficult to substantiate your claims. So you must get an accepted programme. You must submit the revised edition each month and be very prescriptive and detailed about what you've done to the programme to make sure that the project manager has no reasons for rejecting it. Because once you start playing tennis with the programme, it becomes very, very difficult, again, to substantiate your claims. The guidance notes say, if the work's information originally included a piece of work which is now to be replaced by a piece of work B, the compensation event is assessed as the difference between the forecast defined cost of B and the forecast defined cost of A. The fee is then added to this difference, and the resulting total amount is to be used to change the prices. The original price for A does not enter the assessment, and that is crucial. There seems to be a common misconception that, in line with other forms of contract, if you have a lump of money in the bill for an item, when that item is removed, that lump of money is removed. The compensation event is actually assessed on today's prices. So if you'd estimated something 2 years ago and it was being removed now, it gets defined at today's rates. So if a contractor has tried to be particularly cute and put in a very low rate for, let's say, some hydraulic dampers from experience, thinking that they can get them for about £6,000, and then it gets changed to a tuned mass damper, the cost of the hydraulic dampers at today's rate to meet the client's specification is removed. Now that might be £250,000, and the tuned mass damper might be £36,000. Those are just figures I plucked wildly from the air. No, they're not. And you find yourself in a very difficult position because you're handing back money that you may not have had in your original bill. So it's very important that, from a commercial aspect, when the bill is put together, the estimate, the activity schedule, whatever it is, that you identify any areas where somebody has been very keen on the pricing, because if those become subject to a compensation event, it will be very, very difficult to come out on the plus side.